Hey, it's Brian from Wright 732. This is the Daily B, episode 74. What are we talking about? Pivoting. Hey, it's Brian from Wright732.com and fitin.com, PHITIN.com. So, talking about pivoting. So, what is pivoting? So I'll get into it a couple different ways. So one thing is, I have on the inside of my arm, I have a tattoo. It says Ichigo Ichii, and it means one moment, one life. And philosophically, what that means is every chance encounter can change your life. So every moment of every day offers an opportunity that will either help you down your path or give you the opportunity to change to a better path. It'll give you an opportunity to increase your circle of relationships. It's just having the ability to stay open to whatever it is that the moment brings. And that's where we get into the pivot aspect. So I had a great conversation with a very successful young man that I happen to train. And his professional life, he is a financial advisor with a big bank. And I asked him, I said, at 28 years old, you have a nice car, you own a nice house, you're married, you have a really good situation going, great job, whatever. Was this what you intended? Is this what you set out to do? And he laughed. He was like, absolutely not. He goes, I had no desire to be a financial advisor. And I was like, okay, so what did you want to be? And so he wanted to work for a hedge fund, basically be a hedge fund manager. That was what he dreamed of while he was in college. He went to school, got a good finance degree from a very good school, got out, got into the workplace, and then he realized that he lives on the Jersey Shore. He likes his time on the Jersey Shore and commuting to New York every day. To work for a hedge fund was not what he had in his brain for it to be. Now, he didn't collapse and throw everything out the window and say, I have to start over. What he did was he said, okay, this is my skill set. This is what I know. This is what my education is. These are the opportunities I have in front of me. This is also the life that I want to live. Now, which opportunity is going to give me the greatest chance of applying my skills while creating the life that I'm looking to create? And that's when he got into financial advising for the right company in the right situation. And now, again, he's very successful. He's creating the security that he wants. He's creating the life that he set out to create, but in a different way than he originally intended, which means he pivoted at some point. So there's nothing that says you have to stay the course forever. Everybody says have endurance, hang in there, stay with it. But that's only when you know, without a shadow of a doubt, that that's what you're supposed to be doing. There are times that we are inspired to do things that we were not necessarily meant to do. We are human. We're allowed to make wrong choices. We're allowed to say when we're 18 we want to be something, and at 24 decide we want to be something else. You have the ability at 24 to make a career decision, put 30 years into it and say, you know what, this just is not how I wanted it to be. It's not whatever, and you're allowed to pivot and change. Now, again, this is like that whole duality aspect of things, because I'm not saying if you don't like something, go do something else. And I'm not saying if you're bad at something, good at something. I'm being completely non-judgmental. I am getting down to the core of being introspective enough to understand what your skills are, what your actual value is, then appreciating how the marketplace is going to provide opportunities to use that. Some of us may not be able to go and work for somebody with our skills, which means we have to start our own business. Now, you may have to go work for somebody for a time so that you can develop the funds you need to start your business. That's a possibility. That's not a pivot, that's a plan. But then others, we go and we work for somebody. We thought it was going to be great. It doesn't work out. Maybe we realize we should have been the boss. And then we pivot from the mindset of being an employee to being a leader. Some of us set out to be leaders, and then we realized leadership is not what we really thought it was, and maybe we're better being under a stronger person. So again, you pivot. But it's not what I like and what I dislike. It's what is satisfying, what is creating the things that I set out to achieve, what makes me truly happy, not superficially happy. Ice cream makes me happy, but I'm not going to eat ice cream for a living because I'll probably be dead in 12 months from a heart attack at 400 pounds. Happiness True happiness is that combination where you're employing the skills that you've got in a way that satisfies, makes you feel complete. This is where we get happy. This is that true foundational happiness. And if we're able to make a living in that way, we are truly one of the few that are brave enough and strong enough to make this possible. So if you're not being fulfilled by what it is you're doing, maybe it was not what you were meant to do. You may be successful. You may be acquiring. You may be doing everything that the social megaphone is telling you to do, but it could be the wrong sitch for you. So you have to go, and you have to have the confidence to say, if I'm able to be successful here, and I'm able to acquire what I want to acquire here, can't you imagine how much better I would be if I was actually doing something that was fulfilling me as well? So if you have the ability to be over in this situation, making that success and the things that everyone is telling you that you should, but it's not fulfilling, why are you afraid to go over here and apply yourself with even greater energy, with a greater truth to who you are, more authentically? Why would you not be able to recreate what you had here, but if not, go upwards of it? You know, that's the whole thing. If you can be successful at one thing, you now have the skills to be successful at everything, because it all takes the same things. The level of authenticity is what creates your value, and then you have to figure out what the marketplace is going to respond best to. So you may actually have to take a pay cut to find happiness. Sometimes happiness doesn't mean making $1 million. Sometimes happiness means making $65,000 and living in an apartment in a nice neighborhood, whatever. Maybe owning things is not what's floating your boat. Maybe you need the freedom to be able to move. Maybe you don't like to be anchored into the same place. But again, these are not things where it's like, am I creating a lifestyle where I have to avoid responsibility, or is it truly to my nature that I like to have certain freedoms because that's what gives me the happiness? Some people like living in a smaller world. Some people like living in a bigger world. Again, like, there's no right or wrong to any of this except for ourselves. No matter what anyone else says, it's really you that's going to define your happiness. You that's going to understand if you're running from reality or you're pivoting to a better reality. It's you that understands that you're constantly jumping from space to space because you don't have it in you to make commitments because you're afraid. Or you like to move around because that truly is your nature, and that's what is your security and success. We all define it different. Some people like a 9-to-5. Some people like working for bosses. Some people like being the boss. We all define it differently, and nobody's right and nobody's wrong as long as they're being their most authentic self and getting a fulfillment out of it. If you're living with passion and purpose, you're not wrong, no matter what anybody says. You could leave the highest paying job for a low paying job, working more hours, but you're creating the positive effect that you wanted in your life and the people around you. Who's to criticize? So again, understand that pivoting is going from, if you're going in a direction that may seem like the right direction, but you know deep down is not the right direction for you, you pivot to a better path. Now, if you're on a path that you think is the right path, you still have to be open to the idea that something or someone or knowledge, whatever, something is could bump into you that could change your path for the better as well. You don't want to just change your direction every time you bump into something. You want to make sure that every time you make a change, it's towards that end goal. And if your end goal starts to lack, you need to redefine it. You need to change it. You're allowed to do that. Again, we're human. We change our mind. We make changes constantly. And it's really okay, as long as those changes are based upon us discovering more and more of who our authentic self is. So I've gone on enough. So understand, again, there is nothing that says you have to do anything. The only have to for me is being me. And if I have to change directions to find my truest self, that's what I have to do. And that's what you have to do. So again, be introspective enough to understand who you are, what you are, where you are, and what you want. And then reverse engineer from what you want back down to where you are. Change your daily behavior. It's really that simple. All right? Enjoy the day. Think about things.